I just came off a win, so I'm feeling good. Okay, I'm black. So d4, knight f6, d4, knight c6, tango, but it transposes into this Catalan type thing. So after g3, d5, so he just takes, which is a little odd. Usually the tension here is maintained longer, but he just decides to take. So I take with the pawn in order to free this bishop. Bishop g2, bishop b4 check.
Check.
g3, castle, castle. And now I play this move h6, because this move bishop g5 is going to be annoying potentially. Like he's threatening to just like play bishop g5, take on f6, then take on d5. So I prophylactically, prevent bishop g5. Okay, so here he plays queen b3. Okay, so here's my first little decision tree as to what to do. Everything until now has pretty much been standard. I developed my bishop with a gain of tempo, I castled, and then I played h6. But now the question is, what do I do here? So what do you guys like? What do you guys like? Yeah, I mean, this bishop really doesn't want to be anywhere else other than b4. d6, it kind of blocks this pawn on e7. And I probably will end up taking this knight anyway. So bishop b4 makes sense. Okay, but what should I do here? So some moves that come to mind are some sort of development for this bishop. Maybe bishop e6, maybe bishop f5, maybe bishop g4. Although at this point it's not really clear where I want to move this bishop, right? Like it might belong on f5, it might belong on e6. It's not clear though. And bishop takes c3 is certainly possible, but I mean, white really has no threat here, right? I mean, this pawn is defended twice, this is defended, everything is defended. So I kind of have a free move to do what I'd like. And so I think what I make is the strongest move. I play simply rook e8. So again, notice how I'm kind of gaining a tempo. And the way I'm gaining a tempo is now I'm threatening to take on c3 and take on e2. So I put my rook on an open file, which is, what you want to do. And I'm also gaining a tempo. So I force him to react to this move. So I think rook e8 is strongest. Houdini at depth 30 agrees with me. So rook e8. Okay, so it's important to, when you're developing your pieces, if you can develop your piece with a gain of time, it's usually not a bad move. I said that before, but, like moves like bishop e6, bishop f5, I mean, they're reasonable, but again, this has more of a purpose. You're kind of developing for the sake of development if you're moving this bishop. Whereas if you're moving this rook, you're really having a purpose of seizing the open file and also creating a threat. Okay, so he plays e3. So I've already kind of gained something, right? Because now he's blocked in this guy. So e3 was probably a bit of a mistake. I probably should just play bishop f4. With the point that if I take and take and take on e2, well, this rook actually might get trapped after, say, 95. Because now this is being hit, and this rook actually has no safe squares. So bishop f3 threatens to win the rook. So it's probably a poisoned pawn. But he plays e3, and so I've gained something now. His bishop is blocked in. So what should I do here? Now this is an important point in the game as well. What should I do here? So again, there's some reasonable options. Can't really play knight e4 because d5 hangs, unfortunately. So if knight e4, he can play knight d5, I think. Maybe. Maybe he can't, but his knight d5 maybe I have bishop e6. But okay, maybe at the very least he can play like knight d2. And it's not really clear what I'm doing with this knight. Like if take, now all of a sudden he's hitting this. So I don't know if I can do knight d5 right away because of bishop e6. But yeah, at the very least, I think knight d2 is a problem. Or not a problem, but I mean, I don't think it's accurate. And b6 is just a very anti-positional move because, my problem in this game is going to be this pawn because it's on an open file. So eventually he's going to play like bishop d2 and rook c1. And by playing b6 just makes this pawn on c7 even weaker. Not to mention that this diagonal is now being opened. So b6 is definitely a move I want to avoid if I can at all costs. Because I'm probably not going to develop my bishop this way. I'm probably going to be developing it this way. So b6, I'm just creating unnecessary weakness. Bishop f5 does make some sense, for sure. But I'm kind of worried that like if I have to move this guy, then this could become a problem. This b7 pawn. So if I play just like, for example, I don't know, a3 or something, and then okay, take. I'm not exactly sure how I want to defend this pawn. And he has ideas of maybe playing knight d2 and c4 and just trying to open up this. So I play again what I think is the correct move. And I simply take on c3. And the reasoning behind taking on c3 is that I actually want to reposition this guy. Because he's actually not well posted on c6 at the moment. It's looking at a lot of things that a lot of squares I can't really go to at the moment. And this pawn does a good job of kind of taking away some squares from it. So I kind of want to try to reposition it to c4. And the problem is I can't do that yet because my bishop is hanging. And a move like bishop f8 is not really what I want to do because this bishop isn't really serving much purpose. If I play g6 and bishop g7, I'm not really doing anything. These pawns, although they're on dark squares, are kind of providing a barrier to my bishop. So even though my bishop is technically good because this pawn's on a light square, his pawn chain is so strong, and I really don't have a way to break it up at the moment because my extra pawn's on the c file. His extra pawn is on the e file. So I'd have to, do some sort of g5, f5, f4 to even, dream of breaking this up. So my bishop is actually not useful. So I simply take the knight. He takes. And now I get ready to hop my knight into c4. So knight a5, which is correct. Plays queen a4, so he's hitting my knight. I play the move c6, lending further support to this pawn, and also defending this knight. Okay, now he plays knight e5. Okay. So what should I do here? What should I do here? So notice that because all of his pawns are in dark squares, his light squares are a bit weak. So a way to potentially take advantage of this is to play a move like knight to e4. The idea being that I'm simply hitting this pawn, and if he plays a move like bishop e2, I can maybe hop into c4, knight d2, knight c4, and get rid of this well-posted knight. And if he takes, well, now I have complete control over the light squares. This bishop is unopposed, and I can start creating threats on his king potentially, or I can just kind of control the c4 square, make sure he can't break, and kind of form a blockade on the light squares. So knight e4 is probably a good choice. But I want it to be a bit more direct. Yeah, and horsey hops. Exactly, horsey hops. So we do some horsey hops. Knight to d7. So it has kind of the same idea as knight to e4, just kind of a different route. So my point is, I'd like to exchange these knights. I'm not unhappy about that. But moreover, what I kind of want to do is I kind of want to force this knight away from this square, so that I can bring this knight here and this knight here, and kind of form a blockade on the queen side. And then I can kind of bring my bishop in and start creating some havoc. So knight e4 is probably more accurate. And here he should actually probably take the bull by the horns and play something like f4. And now I obviously don't want to make this trade because it opens up the f file for him. And I can't really play f6. My light squares are a little too weak now. So probably here I have to play knight f6 again and kind of, you know, say, well, I forced you to play f4, which weakens this pawn. And now I might hop back into e4. And now this knight will be a permanent home on e4 unless you capture it. Whereas before on e4, you know, eventually you could play something like f3. But now that's never available to him. But still, that probably was his best try. He played knight d3. I mean, which is not a, you know, it's not terrible, but f4 kind of forces me to waste 2 tempi in exchange for his weakening his position. So yeah, it does look bad, but it's hard for me to exploit it, actually. And this pawn is hard to attack as well. But yeah, like I thought if he played f4 I'd be happy, but it's actually probably his best move. Okay, so he plays knight d3. I play knight c4. He plays rook e1, and now I should probably, this knight is probably misplaced here. I play knight db6, but I should probably just play knight f6 again and control this square, because his idea is he kind of wants to play f3 and e4 and run this pawn. And this knight on b6 is a little awkward. Like, my idea was like I want to play like knight db6, knight d6, knight e4 maybe or something, but it never really materialized. So I should kind of just use this knight to come to e4 rather than use this knight. Anyway, horsey hops, etc. Knight db6, he plays queen b3. And now I play bishop f5, which makes a lot of sense, developing with a gain of tempo. So he plays knight c5. Okay. So now he's attacking this pawn. So what should I do? How should I defend that pawn? There's a few choices. I could defend with a rook. I could defend with the queen. I could actually just let it sit there. Notice this bishop is very nice because it controls b1. So he never has like rook b1 to get his rook out. So his rook's kind of stuck. And his bishop is dominated by this knight, so his bishop's kind of stuck. So I have a bit of a bind on the queen side, but he does have this plan to kind of play f3 and e4, which, as you'll see, happens in the game. So yeah, I should actually probably play knight d7. It looks a bit paradoxical because it just came from d7, but the point is after knight takes b7, queen c8, I'm actually just threatening to win this knight with rook b8. And notice this knight covers d6. And if knight c5, well, after take and take, all of a sudden his pawns are really weak, and my pieces are very strong. This knight absolutely crushes this bishop. Now I probably play a move like queen a6 and rook a b8, and his queen is running short on squares, and he's going to lose this pawn for sure. And my position is very strong, but it's a bit unconventional to kind of move your piece back to the square it was, and simultaneously, quote unquote, hang a pawn. I mean, even though like taking this pawn for him is still leads to advantage for me, it's kind of not the first move you would consider. So instead I played rook e7, which is fine. The idea is I just want to play queen c7 and rook a e8 and kind of put pressure on this e4. So he plays f3. Play queen c7. He plays e4, and now I play rook a e8. So the point is I'm pinning this, so he can't play ef5. And now I'm just trying to play... Well, ideally what I want to do is chase this knight away. Maybe by playing like knight a5, knight bc4, and then b6. So my goal is to kind of create a pin on this pawn long enough for me to be able to do something like that. But he plays e5 right away, creating a nice foothold in the center for himself. Okay. So now really his best piece is this knight. So I decide... Yeah, bishop f4 was best, by the way. Bishop f4 was best. So yeah, bishop f4, queen c8. And notice that this pin is still existing. So he still can't take here because I have 2 rooks on it. And now maybe a move like bishop f1. Just try to eliminate one of these knights. So yeah, bishop f4 was best. And it's about even there. But okay, he played e5. And now in this position, I wanted... he has more space in the center. But if I can get rid of this knight, it'll be good for me, right? So I play knight to d7. Another idea I could have played is, again, that idea I was mentioning before of knight a5, knight bc4, and b6. But I figure, okay, I'll put direct pressure on him and play knight d7. So the problem is he can't take on b7 with the knight because I just play rook b8. And if he takes on b7 with the queen, I mean, at least I have take, and this should be very good for me. If bishop f4, I can take on e1 and then play rook b7. If he takes and plays bishop f4, I can play rook e7. And these pawns are pretty weak. I could even go take, and then rook b8, because then this is forced. And even though I'm down a pawn, like I said before, I mean, I'm always winning at least a pawn back. And this rook is completely trapped, and this bishop actually has nowhere to go either. I mean, if bishop f4, I can always play g5. So anyway, so he makes a very natural move. He plays bishop a3, because he obviously doesn't want to allow this to happen, and his knight doesn't really want to retreat, right? Because he doesn't want to play knight a4 or something. So he plays bishop a3. And now the question is, what do I do here? Because now he's threatening to move this knight and uncover some sort of discovery on this rook. Now this rook is in the game. And it's not clear what I should do. What do you guys think? Spent a lot of time around here trying to figure out what to do. Because it looks like my pieces are active, but it's not really clear what I should be doing with them. Yeah, so the problem with knight d6 is it doesn't work. He can just take, and then if take, take, check, king f2, and now my rook is hanging and my queen is hanging. So knight d6 does not work. I looked at that. But it doesn't work. And also he doesn't have to take, but I mean taking wins, so he should take. But yeah, I spent a lot of time on knight d7. Because I wasn't sure if I wanted to play that other idea that I mentioned before, or a different idea. And then when he played bishop a3, I wasn't sure if, you know, if like I should like just take here and then like play b6, or you know, just like take on c5 and play rook e6, and then, you know, try to play f6 next move, or what. But it's really like a crucial point in the game at this moment. So do you guys have any ideas? Yeah, bishop c2 is interesting. But the thing is, I don't know if I really want to trade this bishop for this bishop. You know? Because this is like my best piece, probably, in a way. Sort of. So, I mean, it's a cute idea, but I'm not sure if I want to trade this guy for this guy. So like bishop c2, take, just queen b3, okay, knight c4, and then I'm not really sure what I'm doing here. Like he can just go like knight d3, for example. And now he can play like rook b1 at some point, or just go like f4, f5, f6. It's tough. It's an interesting idea, though. But I'm not sure that exchange is beneficial for me. So what I came up with was a bolt from the blue. Knight d takes e5. Okay. So let's think about this for a minute or two and try to figure out what the heck is going on. So I'm not going to say anything for a bit. I'll let you guys look at this position and try to figure out what's going on here. But this violently changes the course of the game. So what is going on after knight d takes e5? What the heck is happening? Yeah, so it requires a lot of calculation and a fair amount of intuition. But what is happening here? Well, some of the ideas in this position are that, one, his queen is tied to the defense of this bishop. And two, I'm going to be gaining complete control over this e-file. And his king is actually not that safe. So, for example, something like take. Okay, so I'm threatening rook takes rook. If he moves the rook and doesn't take, say he plays, I don't know, rook, I don't know, rook c1 or something. I can just play rook to e2, and I'm simply threatening to play queen e5 and queen e3 and queen f2. And it's actually not easy for him to stop that. Because again, all his pieces are kind of misplaced. So, he can like take on b7, for example, if he wants. I mean, it loses this, but like, again, I'm just going to play queen e5 and queen e3. So if he takes, I take, and again, queen e3 is impossible to stop. And again, I just want to play queen e3, queen f2, and rook e2, and just mate. Because notice that, like, queen e3, check. Queen f2, so I'm threatening rook e1. Yeah, I mean, I'm threatening rook e1, so he has to go like queen d1. But now I can just go a5, and the bishop is trapped, and I'm just up 2 pawns. And notice if this bishop moves, I can actually even just take this knight, or I can take the bishop and then the knight hangs. Does this really work? Well, we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out. Okay, so what do you guys think is a possible defense? I mean, okay, if he doesn't take, I'm just completely winning because I have knight takes f3, and I win the exchange. So he has to take. He has to take. Okay, so take. Okay, so what's a possible defense here? What's a possible defense? So he should probably play something like, I don't know, rook d1. But he gets into real trouble. Because I think I can even just play like knight e3, knight takes g2, rook e2, take, queen e5, and bishop h3, and that should win too. Okay, so he decides to take on e5. I take with the queen. And now relatively best for him is to play... so he needs to really stop this queen e3, because queen e3 is a very, very serious idea. So he actually should play knight e4. The point is that if I take, he can take here. And now rather than take, which is obviously very good, but I can actually just play b5. And now he has nothing better than rook e1 and take. And again, I'm completely winning. But this is relatively best. But of course, he wants to try to hold on to the material, so he plays this move g4. And now... do you guys see it? Do you guys see it? This is absolutely brilliant. This is absolutely brilliant. Do you guys see what's coming? It is very, very nice. This is a chess tempo problem right here, guys. This is a chess tempo problem. Do you see it? Can you see it? This is beautiful. This is absolutely beautiful. I'll give you guys a minute to try to find this, but black to move and instantly win. It's very nice. Very nice. I'll give you a hint. I did not spot this during the game. To be fair, I only had about 10 minutes left at this point because I actually spent a good chunk of time on move 20 thinking about knight takes e5 right away. It doesn't quite work there. It's good enough for a draw, but it doesn't actually win. So I spent like half an hour on move 20 thinking about it, and then on move 21 I spent another, a few minutes double checking to make sure it worked. So I didn't have much time here. So I missed this beautiful win. I still managed to find something pretty good, but let's see if you guys can find the super good thing. Yeah, so knight d2 is good. Knight d2 is good. But there's something that's really spectacular. No, so queen e3, he cannot play king f1, right? Because knight d2 is mate. True. So king h1 is forced. But yeah, knight d2, I mean, he can play queen d1 is the point, or is the problem. So just to go for his wishes line, queen e3, check. King h1, knight d2. He can play queen d1. And the problem is this knight is not attacking this anymore. So his queen is free to kind of help defend. And now his queen is helping to defend. Right, and you think like something like queen e1 would work, but the problem is I just don't have enough gas.
Check.
Because take,
check.
Bishop f1. Okay, so if I take,
check.
King g2, knight e3, king g3, and it's just not working. Just not working. If I play knight e3 first, that's a possibility. And now I'm threatening mate. But again, it doesn't quite work because he can play a move like h4. And so after take here, it's just not quite working. Like my bishop's hanging, all sorts of stuff. Yes. Very good. Very good. Yeah. So GPAC and bishop c2. Bishop c2. So the point is that we're simply deflecting this queen from this bishop. So after queen takes, now queen e1.
Check.
If bishop f1, just queen takes rook, and this is hopeless because this is hanging and rook e1's coming. So take,
check,
take, here, and knight e3. Now I'm defending the rook and forking, and the king cannot stay on the rook. The king cannot stay on the rook, so the king has to go here, and after knight takes rook, or knight takes queen, funnily enough, black's just up the exchange. And 2 pawns, and it's completely over. So yeah, bishop c2 was the way. And so, okay, the queen can go to b4, but simply a5. Simply a5. And if queen takes b7, then something simply just knight takes a3. And the real cute part to this is I'm threatening knight to b1. I'm threatening knight to b1. Isn't that funny? So I'm threatening the knight. So if he goes, say, I don't know, knight a6 or something, I'm threatening knight to b1 with the idea of queen c1 or queen e1 and mate. And if take, then just take, queen e1, oops, queen e1, take, bishop f1 forced, take, and this is completely hopeless. I mean, I'm just winning all his pawns. So bishop c2 would have been a really nice find. But I didn't find it. But instead I found a good move, which was queen f2. So my point is simply I just want to play rook c2. Or sorry, I'm threatening rook e1, which mates. I'm threatening rook e1. So if he takes, for example, rook e1,
check.
If here,
mate.
If here,
check.
Here, mate.
Checkmate.
Okay. So I'm threatening rook e1. Okay, so here he should probably play queen d1. Oops. Sorry. Here he should probably play queen d1. And after knight takes a3, if g takes f5, I take on c5. And again, I'm completely crushing. Up 2 pawns again. Have control of the open files. But at least he's not getting mated. Okay, but he tries to make things more complicated and plays knight e4. Okay, so now how do I win? Now how do I win? Yeah, and queen f2 was good. Yeah, so Llama Lord, you get full credit. It's not the prettiest line, but it's quite effective. So, I mean, this wins very easily as well. So, the bishop c2 was just very pretty. Okay, so 94, and now only one move wins, but not too hard to spot. Just simply take with the pawn. The point is this pawn is going to become a real menace on f3. So, for example, if queen takes c4, just g takes f3 and it's over, because I'm threatening rook e1 again. And the bishop can't really defend. Okay, so rook f1 is forced. Rook f1 is forced. And now again only one move wins, but again it's not too hard to spot. I simply want to defend the knight. Queen c2, queen e2. So here again he has to play queen d1, and then after take, and I can do a variety of things. I mean, I can just save my bishop. I can take his bishop. I can take here first, and then play bishop c2, and then take. I mean, anything. It's all. I mean, he's dead pretty much. He's completely dead. But he plays g takes f5, trying to hold on to material imbalance. And now, all roads lead to Rome. All roads lead to Rome. E takes f3 is probably the fastest. Point simply is he can't take with the bishop because this is mate. And if he takes with the rook, knight e3 is decisive. Because now if rook takes e3, just rook takes e3 and can't really stop mates. But I played knight e3 first, which is perfectly fine as well. And this is hopeless now. So queen b2 is best. And simply e takes f3. So now I'm threatening pawn takes bishop check. So if he takes here, I take here. If rook e1, there's knight c2. And he's losing at least a rook, because after take, I'm threatening rook e1 as well as I'm threatening the bishop. And the best part is after bishop e2, rook e1, take, I can actually win the bishop because the bishop is trapped. So I win all his pieces. So it's completely over. So instead, after ef3, he plays rook takes f3. And so black to move and win. Well, again, I choose the simplest variation, which is simply queen to d1.
Check.
So now the point is, if rook f1, I just take. And if bishop f1, I don't actually take the bishop, but I take the rook. So that's why I play queen d1 as opposed to queen e1. I mean, it's all the same, really, but
check.
If I play queen e1 and he plays bishop f1, my best is to take here. I mean, of course, this is still completely winning, but by playing queen d1,
check.
Now after bishop f1, I can just take here.
Check.
Now it's completely over, because after bishop g2, I take, and if take, this is actually mate.
Checkmate.
So, after queen d1, he played rook f1, but now simply knight takes f1. And this is completely over, because after h3 forced, check. Knight takes g2, he can't actually even take this with either piece, because rook e2 would win the queen. So I'm just going to be up a full rook, and I have a mating attack. So, I mean, it's over. So, after knight takes f1, he resigned. So, what made this game so special? Well, this tournament, unbeknownst to me, had what some tournaments have, and it's called a Brilliancy prize. And so what usually happens is some independent judge looks at the games of the tournament and judges one to be the best and awards it a Brilliancy prize. Well, take a wild guess which game from this tournament, which featured multiple GMs, won the Brilliancy prize. I'll give you a hint. You might have seen it in the last half hour. Yeah. It was this game. So, you guys officially have seen the Bay Area International Brilliancy Prize winner,